Mahapatra, Department of Sanskrit, Rajdhani College, Bhubaneswar. The title of this paper is Vedic Interpretation, a link between tradition to modernity. Dear audience, now I request Dr. Vibhuti Bhushan Mahapatra to present his paper and also try to elaborate the gist of this paper and what is the utility of this paper for this present society also, you please clarify. Again and again I welcome Dr. Vibhuti Bhushan Mahapatra. Thank you all.
थैंक यू प्रोफेसर आचार्य रेवट स्वामिनी आत्मप्रज्ञानंद सरस्वती जी, respected today's session chairperson Professor Satyanarayana Acharya, dear Dr. Bharat Bhushan Rath, Sanghamitra Mahant Madam, Dr. Sukanya Bhattacharya, and the dear audience. My paper is Vedic Interpretations, a link between tradition to modernity, with special reference to Shayana, Max Muller and Aurobindo. Veda is the repository of sacred knowledge, contains different types of hymns for different gods attributed by various Vedic seers. The purpose of Vedic hymns to invoke gods for fulfillment of human desires, like to lead a happy life in world and heaven. That desire divided into 4 divisions called Purusartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. These 4 Purusartha came after the development of Upanishadic thought. Hence, the aim of the paper is to study a different interpretations on Vedic hymns to understand the meaning of the mantras in both context and content wise. That is why the paper is concentrated on 3 interpretation theories such as traditional Shayana, modern philologist Friedrich Max Muller, and modern Oriental philosopher Sri Aurobindo. How the interpretation changes according to the understanding of the interpreter are discussed here. Before going into the Vedas, let us illustrate what is the term interpretation means. Explaining or elucidating a given topic is called interpretation. Certain topics we come across can be explained in just one way, or to say they are very precise, but there are many topics which pave way for different kind of interpretations depending upon the thought process of different people. What is there as on for this? Is it the fault of the person who explained the topic? As long as the interpreter is well versed with the subject, the possibility of him at fault is very low. So what gives rise to multiple interpretations? It is ambiguity. Only when the whole topic or the word in the topic are ambiguous, it allows the interpreter to freedom to view it from different perspectives. Some may opine that a topic being ambiguous is not a good sign, for it is generally felt that the message is conveyed should be clear and consistent. However, few others will raise their hands and say that the text or a topic being ambiguous in nature is welcome, for it allows them to establish their principle or ideology to the readers. Thus, we see many texts around the world being interpreted differently and sometimes more brilliantly than the original author is. Modern interpretation of Vedas. Now let us see how the text Veda is interpreted by modern scholars. Veda needs no introduction in our land. Its sacredness is well known. The fact that the Vedas have remained intact for so many centuries have made people around the world look at our culture and tradition with absolute awe. We follow a tradition which believes that Vedas are breath of the God himself and it is not man-made or Paurushaya. This faith is the reason which has carried the Veda this far. After the colonization of India, the European scholars started to view the Veda as a normal religious text, but to give them the credit, they did it with utmost dedication and sincerity, without which they could not have done so much work about the Vedas. Their work made Vedas known worldwide, but on the flip side, it also sowed the seeds of doubt in the mind of the people who until then believed very strongly on the Apaurushayatvam of the Vedas. The seeds seem to be grown with more questions and arguments being raised about the Apaurushayatvam concept, with European scholars chipping in with their own interpretation describing the Veda as primitive, crude, and elementary in character. Even the sacredness of the text was questioned. European view on the Veda. What made this text, which was once considered Apaurushaya by the great seers, Pandits, and the traditional Pandits, masses of our country, to be viewed as a primitive historical text by some of modern scholars? As said before, a topic can be interpreted in different ways only when it is ambiguous in nature. So, with divergent views of the Vedas, it becomes clear that it is ambiguous for both the Indian scholars and the European scholars have explained the text only after equipping themselves on the text and its language. We will understand the ambiguity of the words of the Vedas only if the explanation of different interpreters are explained in the same context. Not many commentaries on Vedas by traditionalists are available, with only Sayana's work and Yaskas serving the purpose of some extent. Sayana is the only one who has done commentary on all the Vedas. The Rig Veda, considered to be the first among the Vedas by many, was the central text based on which all these questions and arguments regarding the Vedas were raised. But Sayana did the commentary for this text only after doing the commentary for the Yajurveda. The reason he says in the introduction of the commentary of the Rig Veda is that the rituals are based on all the Vedas and the Yajurveda supplements the various rituals and its methods. In the rituals, the Adharju recite the Yajurvedic hymns and the Hotas recite the Rigvedic hymns and the Udgatas recite Samvedic hymns. So Sayana, keen on establishing the ritual stated in the Yajurveda, started the commentary of Rigveda with his intentions clear on explaining the significance of the hymns in relation to rituals. Sayana treaded on the traditional path laid down by great seers like Ashwalayana and Shaunaka, etc. Thus, Sayana's commentary is predominantly a traditional and ritualistic approach to the Rig Veda, with stories, that means Akhyanas and Vedantic thoughts. When India was colonized, the European scholars, especially Max Muller, studied the Vedas with great interest. With only Sayana's commentary available, quite naturally he was regarded highly by them, for not only it helped them in understanding the text, but also they were surprised by the ability of Sayana in explaining the text with its Sanskrit words being so different and difficult from the current language used by people. But once they got acclimatized to the language, they started to make their own interpretations, for which the ambiguity of the Vedas paved the way. The Western scholars then took the Rig Veda to be a collection of hymns in praise of nature. They have consistently followed this theory without considering the socio-ritualistic cultural background of our country, which is essential for the correct exposition of the Vedas. In fact, they have gone the diametrically opposite way of deducing history from the Vedas. The rust happened when they finished their study. They all came to a conclusion that Vedas are primitive, crude, and full of self-centered wishes made for the welfare for their race, like Aryan. Even greats like Max Muller felt that Vedic hymns were spoken by people who were native. As Max Muller says, in the hymns of the Veda, we see man left to himself to solve the riddle of the world. We see him crawling on like a creature of the earth with all the desires and weakness of his animal nature. Food, wealth, and power, a large family, and a long life are the theme of his daily prayers. But he begins to lift up his eyes. He stares at the tent of heaven and asks who support it. He opens his eyes to the winds and asks them whence and whether He is awakened from darkness and slumber by the light of the sun, and him whom his eyes cannot behold, and who seems to grant him a daily pittance of his existence, he calls his life, his breath, his brilliant Lord and Protector. Emergency of Sri Aurobindo's interpretation on Max Muller. Such comments from foreign scholars affected the thinking of many people in our country, and we find many modern Indian scholars offering full support to their views such as Aryan invasion theory, etc. But for modern seers like Sri Aurobindo, these comments acted like a catalyst, for it necessitated them to view what was actually said in the Vedas, and in the process created their own ways of interpreting the Vedas. Sri Aurobindo, being a realized soul, viewed the Rig Vedas so differently that what these foreign scholars considered naive, primitive, and incoherent appeared to him spiritual, psychological, and coherent. He brought in different psychological representation for different gods of the Rig Veda and correlated each of them so perfectly that makes one wonder why the Vedas are still not projected by our modern Indian scholars in that light. Sri Aurobindo himself speaks on his interpretation of the Vedas in one of his letters thus: I am aware that some of the hymns of the Vedas are interpreted in a sense other than ritualistic. Even European scholars admit higher religious and spiritual ideas in the latter hymns of the Vedas. My point is that such exceptional passages doesn't alter the general tone and purport given to the hymn in the actual interpretations we possess, Science and European scholars. With those, we cannot use the Rig Veda as a whole, as the Upanishads can be used as a whole, as the basis of a high spiritual philosophy. I quite acknowledge that there has always been a side stream of tendency making for the Adhyatmic or spiritual interpretation of the Veda even as a whole. It would be strange if in a nation so spiritually minded such attempts had been entirely lacking, but still they have not received general recognition. Practically, not in theory. What is the result of science commentary? What is the general impression it leaves on the mind? It is the impression of Veda, a great revelation, a book of highest knowledge. Is it not rather which the European scholars received and from which their theories started, a picture of primitive worshippers praying for friendly gods, god of fire, rain, wind, dawn, night, earth and sky, for wealth, food, oxen, horses, gold, the slaughter of their enemies, even of their critics, victory in battle, the plunder of the conquered? And if so, how can such hymns be indispensable preparation for the Brahma Vidya? My position is that they were indispensable not by mechanical virtue in the sacrifice, but because the experience to which they are the key and which were symbolized by the ritual are necessary to one integral knowledge and realization of Brahman in the universe, and prepare the knowledge and realization of the Brahman. They are, to paraphrase Shankara's description, minds of all knowledge, knowledge on all the planes of consciousness, and do fix the conditions and relations of the divine, the human and the animal elements in the being. Three kinds of Vedic interpretation I have taken. With the advent of Sri Aurobindo's interpretation, which he himself admits to have been tried by many realized souls before him, we have three kinds of interpretation mainly. One, which treats Veda to be a poetical text with hymns directed by nature, which seeks history and the culture of the people we lived in the age, etc., the interpretation of the European scholars. The second type is ritualistic interpretation with the acceptance of the myth and spiritual aspects, science commentary. The third type is the interpretation of the Vedas as a whole in the spiritual sense as viewed by Sri Aurobindo. So I have taken few words based on that three interpretations like cow, Panis and Indra. Let us examine the narrative of cows being saved from the grasp of Panis by Indra and see how this is interpreted in all the three ways mentioned above. Science view. That mantra is Tvam balasya gomata pavara driva bilam Tvam deva avibhyusat sujyamanas avisu. Rig Veda 1:11:5. Before explaining this, Ruk Sayana states the story. Thus, once there lived an Asura named Bala, who took the cows of the Devas and he hid them in some mountain. Then Indra, with the help of his army, blasted open the mountain and released those cows. Then Sayana proceeded to explain the Ruk. Thus, O Indra, one who bear the Vajra, who have broken the cave of Bala, and where the cows were kept in captivation. At that time, troubled by Bala, the frightened Devas surrounded in you. In another Ruk, this story once again comes up in favor of the deity Brahmanaspati or Indra. Sayana provides his commentary for the following Ruk like Abhinakshanto Abhije Tamanasur Nidhim Paninam Paramam Guhahitam Te Vidwansa Pratichakshyanrata Punaryanto Ayantam Tudiya Ayur Visam. Rigveda 2:20-6. When the cowherds were taken away by the Panis, the Asuras Angirasas created by Brahmanaspati, knowing the place of the Panis through Sarama, a hound of the heaven, sighted the place of the Panis and destroyed it through the fire emerging from their hand of returned back with all the cows. This instance is explained in the Ruk. Thus, O Angirasa, those who move forward, you proceed towards the wealth of the cow taken by Panis. Those Angirasa, the intelligent man, seeing the illusion created by the Panis, reached that place with same force with which they started originally. Thus, Sayana maintains this interpretation throughout the text. On that particular mantra, what is the view of Max Muller? As mentioned before, the Occidental, in particular Max Muller, used the ambiguous nature of the Rigveda text and interpreted this story thus: it is a reproduction of the old story of the break of day. The bright cows, the rays of the sun, or the rain clouds, for both go by the same name, have been stolen by the power of darkness, by the night and her manifold progeny. Gods and men are anxious for their return, but where are they to be found? They are hidden in a dark or strong stable, or scattered along the end of the sky, and the robbers will not restore them. At last, in the furthest distance, the first sign subtly dawn appears. She peers about and returns with lightning quickness. It may be like a hound after ascent across the darkness of the sky. She is looking for and following the right path. She has found it. She has heard the lowing of the cows, and she returns to her starting place with more intense splendor. After her return, Indra arises, the god of light, ready to be battle in good earnest against the gloomy power, to break open the strong stable in which the bright cows were kept, and so bring light and strength and life back to his pious worshippers. That is from Science of Language, Volume 2. Professor Max Muller would think that Sarama and the early dawn was one and the same thing. He says there can be little doubt that the Sarama was meant for the early dawn and not for the storm. In the ancient hymn of Rigveda, she is never spoken of as a dog, nor can we find there a slightest allusion to her canine nature. This is evidently a latter thought. Science of Language, Volume 2. He defends his argument by quoting reference from the text itself. Thus, it is Usa, the dawn, who wakes first. Rigveda 123 and 1. The sun follows Usas behind as a man follows a woman. Rigveda 1:1152. Of whom is it said as a Sarama that she bring to light the precious things hidden in darkness? It is Usa, the dawn, who reveals the bright treasure that were covered by the gloom. She crosses the water unhurt. Rigveda 6:64-4. Those very ends where, as the Panit said, the cows were to be found. She is said to break the stronghold, sand break back the cows. Rigveda 7:75-7. It is she who, like Sarama, distributes wealth among the sons of men. She is even called them other the cows. The Angirasa, we read, asked her for the cows. Rigveda 6:65-5. In addition, The doors of the dark stable are said to be opened by her, Rigveda 4:5-12. In one place, her splendor is said to be spreading as if she were driving forth cattle, Rigveda 1:92-12. In another, the splendor of the dawn are themselves called a drove of cows. Nay, even the ponies to whom Sarama was sent to claim the cows are mentioned together with Usa, the dawn. She is asked to wake those who worship the god, but not to wake the ponies. In another passage, it is said that ponies are out to sleep in the midst of darkness, while the dawn rises to bring treasure for man. It is more than probable, therefore, that Sarama was but one of many names of dawn. From this, the professor concludes that Sarama and Usa or the dawns are the same thing. The view of Aurobinda's on Max Muller's view. Sri Aurobindo in his text, The Secret of the Veda, interprets the same story in a psychological sense. He comments his argument, stating that the legend, though very precise, was not used purely in the mythological sense in the Veda. Often, it is strived on the mythological aspect and applied to the personal need or aspiration of the singer. As Indra, who the hero of this legend often repeats the same continually even in the present, as he is the seeker of the cows, Gaveshana, and their store of the wealth. Aurobindo says, sometimes we have simply the fact of the stolen cows and they are covered by Indra without any reference to Sarama or the Angirasas or the Panis. He went on to say that it's not always Indra who recovered the cow and quote an instance where Agni was glorified for releasing the cows, Rigveda 5:2 and 3. There it was mentioned that when Agni was born, even the old cow became young and herd were seen very happy and many shining. Sri Aurobindo took this instance and proceeded to explain his theory thus, what we may fairly ask, are these shining herds? These cows that were old and became young again. Certainly there are not physical herd, nor it is any earthly field by the Yamuna or the Jhelum. That is the sense of this splendid vision of the golden tusked warrior god and the herd of the shining cattle. They are the herd either of the physical or the divine dawn, and the language should still with the former interpretation. This mystical vision is surely a figure of the divine illumination. They are radiance that were stolen by the power of darkness and are now divinely recovered, not by the god of the physical fire, but by the flaming force which was concealed with the littleness of the material existence and is now liberated into the clarities of an illuminated mental action. There are many other deities such as Usha, Soma, Indra and Agni together, Bruhaspati, etc., to whom various hymns make the attribution of this great victory. One instance where Usa is related to the victory each clearly explained in the following रूप. Satya satye bhir mahate mahadat bhir deve bhir jajata jajatrehi rujata drulhani dadadusriyanam pratigavam upasambhavashanta Rigveda 7:75-7. True with the gods who are true, great with the gods who are great. Sacrificial Godhead with the gods sacrificial, she breaks upon the strong places, she gives the shining herds, the cows low towards the dawn. Again, citing these hymns from the Veda itself, Sri Aurobindo proves that all the gods mentioned in the Veda are just the psychological representation of the power one could seek inside every individual. Thus, is there a definite sense of these variations which will bind them to get her into a single coherent idea, or is to random that rishis invoke now this and now the other deity in the search and war of their lost cattle? If we will consent to take the idea of the Vedas as a whole instead of bewildering ourselves in the play of separate detail, we shall find a very simple and sufficient answer. This matter of the lost herd is only part of a whole system of connected symbols and images. They are recovered by the sacrificial and fairy god Agni is the flame, the power and the priest of the sacrifice. by the world, and Bruhaspati is the father of the world. The Maruta is its singer of Brahman, Brahmano Marutaha. Saraswati its interpretation by the wine, and Somo is the god of the wine, and the Ashwina its seekers, finders, givers, drinkers. The herds, cows are the herds of tight, and the light comes by the dawn, and by the sun of which Pusan is a form. Finally, Indra is the head of all these gods, lord of the light, king of the luminous heaven, called Swar. He is, we say, the luminous or divine mind, Indra. Into him all the gods enter and take part in the unveiling of the hidden light. We see therefore that there is a perfect appropriateness in the attribution of one and the same victory to these different deities, and in Madhuchanda's image of the god entering into Indra for the stroke against Bala. Rigveda 1:115. Nothing has been done at random or in obedience to confused fluidity of idea. The Veda is perfect, beautiful in its coherent and its unit. Comparing the interpretations, when you compare the three interpretations, we find that all the three vary from each other greatly. One thing similar between Max Muller and Sri Aurobindo is that both assigned similar meaning for the term go, sarama and pani, meaning rays, dawn and darkness respectively. But the differences lies in their expression of this meaning. While Max Muller considered all these only in the physical sense, Aurobindo chose the psychological sense and hence was able to interpret all these in a spiritual manner, and also was able to prove the cohesiveness involving all these stories in the Rigveda. When you consider the point that Max Muller is a complete foreigner, not just an original, but also in relation to the language and its culture, what he has done is certainly unimaginable. But the irony is that he, after evolving this meaning and proving the poetical genius of the Vedic people, failed to understand the people who were able to explain all these thoughts into words with such beauty could never be considered primitive and elementary in their attitude. The reason behind Sayana's view and its ritualistic significance is, when we look at all the three interpretations, we can arrive at a conclusion that Sri Aurobindo's way of interpretation seems better, for not only it shows that the Vedic text contains the highest knowledge that the mankind should work for, but also it proves that the Vedic roots are quite cohesive and interrelated to each other. The European scholars, though, differ from this view. Among them, Max Muller seems to have arrived closer to Sri Aurobindo's, at least in the physical sense of the words. Now the question is, where does Sayana's interpretation stand? Sayana flourished in the 14th century AD, when the Sanskrit vocabulary had been almost perfected. The word go then had for its synonyms like heaven, ray, thunder, the moon, the sun, animal, the cow sacrifice, cow, water, organ, or sense, word, etc. And yet, with all this before him, Sayan did not try to explain away the word go as rays when he come across it in the incidents relating to the theft of the go by the bunnies. In such cases, he has taken the word go to mean the cow or cows and not the rays of the sun. Sayana was no ordinary person. He was a Vedic scholar and a Vedantic philosopher. That being the case, why has he not interpreted the Vedas in the spiritual sense, or why should he interpret it in the ritualistic sense? Perhaps to know the answer, one should look into the tradition of this country. Just as Vedas, even the Puranas and Itihasas from the basis of our culture and tradition, it is a known fact that careful study of Puranas and Itihasas always instills morals and ethics in the readers. They also carried an undercurrent of spirituality, though it is well known that though Mahabharata is a text where warfare and people are mainly discussed, the Santarasa was accepted as the main rasa. Our country has seen numerous philosophers and seers, yet no one tried to explain this text in this respect, because all these texts are not just for cater the needs of the intellects or the spiritual people, but they are here to cater to needs the all kind of people. Just as the Puranas could be understood in different ways depending upon the thought process of the different people, so too the Vedas could be. Great people who understood the highest sense prefer to keep it within themselves, impart the hidden knowledge only to genuine seekers. This being our tradition, Sayana strongly adhered to it, even though he was aware of the ambiguity in the words of Vedas. In fact, he himself has expressed two different meanings for the same phrase in two different places. The phrase is Prasuras Chakram Bruhatad Abhi Kabhi, Rigveda 1, 174.5. The verse also available in Rigveda 4, 16.12. At same, in the first instance, Sayana explains this phrase thus: "At sun, so his chariot or his radiance near Indra, who is fighting for the sake of Kutsa." While in the second instance, in the some context, he explains this phrase thus: "O Indra, you have broken the weapon of the sun in the war." Hence, it became certain that he has indeed known all these ambiguities of the Vedas, yet he chose the ritualistic approach and tried to tie every hymn in relation with the rituals, sometimes unsuccessfully too. This clearly proves that Sayana must have realized what Aurobindo has stated, but unlike him and like all his previous scholars, remained away from these interpretations in keeping with our tradition. Still, when we read his commentary, we come across several instances where even Sayana could not restrict himself from giving the spiritual sense to certain rooks. Yet, for all that he stuck to his task and wrote his commentary, without which people after him could not have imagined to understand the Veda even in its elementary sense. I have taken again two more words, Indra and Kutsa. I think it's a long paper and I could complete here. Complete? Okay. There are subtle things still unclear in the above interpretations of the Ruk, but interpreting it in the spiritual sense is more appealing. It is not easy for normal men to get the exact spiritual sense from the Vedas, for it reveals itself in full light only for those seers who are in the highest state. At least one could remember that this text always provides highest clarity to men. Whenever we read this text, we at back of our mind should realize that this is not an ordinary text, but this is sacred, it is godly, which is why we call it Apaurusheya, not man-made. The other greatness of this text is that it calls for different kind of interpretations. No text in this world allows such flexibility and still looks awesome and accommodating. I say so because even in the literary and ritualistic interpretations, there seems to be no text to match the fluency with which the hymns are rendered in the Rigveda. Though lack of coherence when interpreted in the first two methods appears as a negative, each Ruks in its own right adds beauty to the text. Thus the Vedas prove beyond doubt that when you prepare ourselves to further in our quest to understand the Veda, we would know that the Vedic hymns actually provide many types of knowledge of the nature, gods and history, a sacrificial or ritualistic knowledge, and finally a spiritual knowledge. But the last is the true sense, and when one gets it, the other drops are cut away. Thank you for listening the paper. Thank you.